No. The ayes have it. These bills are set down for third reading forthwith.
Rangitāne Tūmairā Wairarapa Tāmaki nui-ā-Rua Claim Settlement Bill, third reading.
The Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Mr Speaker, I move that the Rangitāne Tūmairā Wairarapa Tāmaki nui-ā-Rua Claim Settlement Bill be now read a third time. E te kai whakarite o te whare tēnā koe, e nei hoa mema tēnā koutou. Tēnā koutou kura haupo waka, nā uri o hāmua rawa ko rangi whaka ewa. E karanga ana tonu te huia I roto, I o koutou nā ko maha, rourangatira mā, tēnei taku mihi atu ki a koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Can I begin by extending a very warm welcome to the members of Rangitāne who have travelled from Wairarapa and Tāmaki nui-ā-Rua and from further afar to witness the third reading of this bill. This is a hugely significant day for Rangitāne and for the Crown, and I'm pleased we do not have to wait any longer to see the third reading of this bill. Today is actually a very important day because we settle the treaty grievances of the Wairarapa and Tāmaki nui-ā-Rua, but I'm conscious, having been Minister for almost 9 years, that during my period we've also settled the claims of Rangitāne in the Wairau and, of course, over the hill Rangitāne in the Manawatu. I have to say that over the years and throughout all these negotiations, I've encountered the same drive, determination and a principled approach to negotiations in all Rangitāne groups, although I have to say the sense of humour exhibited by a certain person in Wairau is unique. Richard Bradley's form of humour is not replicated across other parts of Rangitāne. You're all very, very worthy descendants of Whātonga, and just before I came down here I was having a look at a book by Jock McEwen, who was the former Secretary of Māori Affairs, who had a very special affection for Rangitāne and wrote that wonderful text in 1986 that tells the story of Rangitāne and its interactions with various iwi over the centuries. Can I acknowledge those who have suffered the grievances and those who obviously can't be with us today but began this journey many years ago? Obviously, they are in our thoughts as they are in the thoughts of all of us whenever we have a third reading. To those of you who've worked so hard to make today possible, I offer you my most sincere thanks. Throughout the negotiations, the negotiators for Rangitāne displayed great commitment, dedication and high standards, and I have to say cut to the chase on the big issues very, very quickly. I want to acknowledge the lead negotiator, Jason Kerahi, the Trust negotiation team, Mavis Mullins, Richard Jones, Tipuni Crisp and Chair John Sproat for their very astute oversight of the settlement. I acknowledge all of you for your hard work and your commitment toward a lasting settlement. I also acknowledge, as I always do, the various Crown agencies and the regional and district councils for their work, and I thank the district councils who have been very helpful during the negotiations and have actually made some of the redress possible. The journey to settlement started in the 1980s when Manahi Paiwai lodged Y166 and Jim Rimini and others lodged the Y175 claim. Tribunal hearings were held in 2004, 2005, and the Wairarapa ki Tararua report was released in June 2010. From this point on, Rangitāne adopted a pragmatic approach to negotiations. The mandate was recognised in October 2011. Terms of negotiation were signed in August 2012 and an agreement in principle a couple of years later. Throughout the negotiations, the iwi expressed their desire to reach a just and a durable settlement swiftly so that they could start growing their assets for the benefit of their people. We all know that treaty negotiations take some time, but we're finally here today, almost a year to the day since we signed the deed of settlement on that very wet Saturday morning not far from Dannevirke. Can I now set out the key aspects of the past relationship between the Crown and Rangitāne, as obviously I want this to be in the permanent record of the House. From the 1840s, Rangitāne were among those who welcomed Pākehā to the region and leased land to settlers. The Crown applied pressure on Wairarapa Māori to end the leases and instead sell their land to the Crown. When purchasing land, the Crown led the iwi to expect substantial benefits that would accrue. In the course of time, however, Rangitāne did not experience many of these benefits nor the prosperity that they had reasonably expected from settlement in their region. The Crown also failed to survey or protect from alienation a number of reserves that have been promised. It's such a familiar account that repeats itself time and time again. Throughout the 19th century, the Crown continued to acquire areas of land. Communities resisted land sales and fought the breakdown of tribal structures through a number of initiatives, including parliaments and indeed also an appeal to the Privy Council, but to no avail. So by 1910, only 10% of the traditional rohe remained in Maori land title, and by 1940, that figure had dropped to an appalling one, 3.5%. Throughout this process, Rangitāne lost many of their traditional food resources and taonga. The environment, particularly of lakes and rivers, suffered degradation in favour of economic development. So virtually landless by the 20th century, compounded with pressures of social deprivation, urbanisation and assimilation, these all had a dramatic impact on Rangitāne, particularly as Rangitāne communities struggled to maintain their homes, their customary knowledge and their language. Now, the loss that has been suffered can never be fully compensated for by the Crown. Much of what was lost simply cannot be returned. However, the people of Rangitāne have graciously accepted the redress contained in the settlement, and in doing so, I acknowledge their generosity. I think the settlement will contribute to reviving their Rangitāne-tanga. A very critical aspect of the settlement is the Crown apology. Through the settlement and apology, the Crown seeks to restore its honour and atone for its wrongs to Rangitāne o Wairarapa and Rangitāne o Tāmaki nui-ā-Rua by easing the burden of grievance that's been carried on for generations. This is of huge importance if we want to develop a new treaty-based relationship. Another aspect of the redress is the vesting in Rangitāne of 2 reserves at Pukaha and their subsequent gift back to the Crown and the people of New Zealand and the overlay classification. This remains one of the last significant stands of native trees from the great domain of Whatonga, named by your tupuna as he was travelling up the Manawatu River. The redress acknowledges the special relationship that you have with this area, and it symbolises the partnership that exists between the Crown and Rangitāne. You've stressed the importance of a place to stand which you can call your own, and the settlement includes the vesting of 8 sites of huge significance to Rangitāne. And the other important point that I wish to stress is the issue of the lake, and it's good to see Mr. Mark in the House today, because he, as a former negotiator for Ngāti Kahungunu, is acutely aware of the outline of the redress there. The bed of Lake Wairarapa will jointly be held with Ngāti Kahungunu ki Wairarapa Tāmaki nui-ā-Rua. So it's a very good day for Rangitāne, and I very much look forward, as I'm sure Mr. Mark does, to that day in the very, very near future, hopefully by the end of the year, when the deed of settlement can be signed with Ngāti Kahungunu, and then it will be a new dawn for both these great iwi in the Wairarapa. So today, Mr. Speaker, is about acknowledging the past and looking forward to the future. everyone can be, I think, very pleased with what has happened. It's been a long journey, but a worthwhile journey. I thank the negotiators once again. I thank Mr Barker, who has been the Chief Crown negotiator, very good fellow, very hard worker, and I commend the bill to the House.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. Miki whai tira, tēnā koe.
E te maangai te whare, tēnā koe o tira.